Hi, everyone, and welcome back. I'm John Lincove.
I'm Mike Quincy.
I'm Steve Elek.
And as most people know, the last 2.5, 3 years, the car market has been, insane. You can't find a new car. Used car prices are all over the place. If you find a new car, it may be, super expensive, or it's going to take you forever to get it. So today we're going to talk about the used car market. We're going to talk about the insanity, some buying advice, what people should do. But before that, some of the eagle-eyed viewers and maybe even sharp-eared listeners might notice that we have a new person next to us next to me, who has actually been on the show once before. I'm going to introduce you all to Steve Elek, our data mind extraordinaire, mega mind, data guy. Steve, tell us about yourself.
No pressure, Steve.
Yeah. Well, tell us about what you do here. Tell us why you're here, actually.
I work on the auto data analytics, so pretty much everything to do with data in terms of reliability and the owner satisfaction surveys. I am a longtime car fan since I was young, and so mixing cars and data together is really just a dream job. So I love being here. I have a bunch of experience with high mileage, 200,000 mile Audis. So, I know
you're
what
used to
not
walking,
to do.
Is what you're saying.
So you and Mr. Lincove have a lot in common.
we did bond over that a little bit early on. And I do have to somehow grease the wheels to get him to help me replace the clutch on the on the 944 turbo. So we'll do that someday.
Happy to help. But that's why I'll be able to help with used cars, because I know what not to do.
Excellent advice. So we welcome Steve. Steve will be making some appearances here going forward, which is good. We're going to jump in. I mean, like I said, the used car market constantly shifts. You have times where there's no used cars. Then used cars are available because they've come off of leases and they've been snapped up by the wholesalers. And then all of a sudden now, the used car market's softening, you hear. But is it softening on the retail level or on the wholesale level? Mike, you've been doing some research on this just a little bit. Where do we sit right now?
Well, you're certainly not seeing advertisements saying, clearance sale.
Yeah.
Because there hardly isn't any inventory still to this day. So I did have the opportunity to talk to a friend of mine. His name is Steve Lang. He's a used car specialist. He buys and sells about 300 cars a year. So he kind of knows a thing or two. He's been at it for a long time. And so I kind of said, well, Steve, so how did we get here? I mean, he's like, well, obviously COVID came and everything shut down. The chip shortage, during COVID, not a lot of new car sales were going on because people were just staying home. And basically demand was really suppressed. But then as production started to ramp up a little bit more, as we know, the chip shortage also reduced the flow of new cars to dealers. So over the last couple of years, very few new vehicles were sold. And those new vehicles obviously eventually become used vehicles.
Particularly like leases and stuff like that.
Right. And very few vehicles are coming off of lease. People are just kind of buying them because they agreed to the price when they signed the lease. And it was obviously an extraordinary deal. Now, they didn't know it then when they signed it.
People agree to a price for the monthly, but what's the price that Mike was referring to, just for our audience?
On a lease car, there's a residual. So that's basically what you would buy out the car for at the end of the lease. And what's happening in this market is the buyout price is so much lower than the market value of the vehicle that it's almost more worth buying out your lease at the end.
Because they were all set in 19 or 18,
exactly.
Right? Okay. So
Jennifer Stockberg has been on Talking Cars and talked about the lease that she had going on for her daughter's car, and the dealer said, we'll buy it back for more than it's actually. She made money.
Yeah.
On a leased car.
Right. You just buy it out and then sell it.
Yeah. I think they held on to it because she needed a car. Yes, they could have made money selling the car, right. but she still then would be in the same situation of her daughter needing a car.
Sure.
So, but it was just these are extraordinary times in terms of, you think a new car will obviously go down in value, but they're really not going down as much as you think.
So did he say any suggestions to you on what he sees in the short, medium, and long term of the market, for example?
He thinks that the market is going to be pretty bad for the next 2 to 3 years. His general advice is don't spend too much money. And I don't know if he's predicting, a larger either U.S. or global recession. I mean, that's certainly people are talking about it. We don't know for sure. But he's being kind of
He's hedging his bets.
Yeah, I think, and that's how he's operating. But I mean, looking at the used car market from a wholesale perspective, the last couple of months, the wholesale prices have actually come down. I mean, when there's talk about the market might be getting a little bit better, the problem is that the dealers aren't really passing these savings on to the consumers.
Right.
So they're spending a little bit less to buy the cars on a wholesale level, but they're not reducing the price on the retail level.
And so interest rates are going up at the same time too, right?
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
So that's
exactly
that's one issue that people are seeing. So is there a way that people can avoid, getting hammered on all ends basically of the used car purchase, used car market or so? What can people do?
One of my recommendations would be to not stick to a body type. Don't go out looking for a certain type of vehicle. Maybe you want an SUV, but it's also an extremely popular body type. So maybe look at some sedans that may be out there for cheaper. Or there may be more to choose from.
Mm-hmm. And with interest rates, where are there places? I mean, there's something that we have here at we have a credit union at Consumers Union, Consumer Reports. Many people have access to that. It's an option that people may be able to go to get a better rate, but they may not always think about it. They may just traditionally go right to the dealer.
Right.
And if you're going to a dealer, particularly maybe the non-branded one, the guy who's got a lot of cars on the corner and there's a whole variety, that may not be the best option, correct?
Correct. And the same advice that we give out for buying a new car is the same for buying a used car. Get your financing arranged ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
Get an idea either from your credit union or from your local bank about how much you can borrow, how much you can afford, how much you can swing. But certainly, again, don't go to any dealer and say, I can afford X number of dollars a month. That's absolutely the worst way to go about it. And the dealer will find a way to get you in that car for that amount. Of course, you'll be paying the loan for 72 months or something crazy.
So do
like
your
that.
research and have the purchase price in mind, not what you can afford each month.
Correct.
Yeah. So what if Steve, if you need a car now, what is I mean, it's very easy for us to say, hold on to your car, fix it and keep going. But that's not the reality for some people. Some people, the car's just hit its life. It's going to be it's worth $2,000 and it's a $10,000 of repair, so it's at some point it doesn't make sense, or you may not be mechanically inclined or something. So, is there advice of what someone should do, kind of steps to find a used car? How would they go about that? And then what would they do if they find something that fits for their life and their finances?
In that case, really, I would probably say go research what you're looking for and really get in mind what you go out there looking for.
Mm-hmm.
But
so in the terms of research, I mean, one of the things we talked about, kind of prepping. You're watching this episode, you're listening to this episode, you're already in the cars. So you're already narrowed down kind of your search group, in that you're not just, you may be casual, you may have stumbled upon this, but for the most part, you're in the cars. So you already have groups that you follow. Look into those groups to find people who have advice. They have a source. They have a car they're selling. And then narrow down there and keep looking in your little circle of friends, virtual or real, to get you to a point where you're finding something. You're not just going out and hitting that corner lot. You're not just grabbing something that you see posted on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or something like that. But what kind of tips do you advise people to follow to actually go through and do that purchase? Because finding the car is one thing. Right. Finding your network of friends is one thing. But actually going through and prepping to buy the car is a different story.
I mean, in terms of buying a car, so find this person who has an extra car at their home that they're not really using that much. And then this is, again, this is advice we've been giving out. If you have an extra car that you're not really using, now's a great time to sell it because you get a lot for it. So, but if you know somebody that's kind of just sitting on a car, you just go right to them. You say, "Can I buy your car?" That's
buy it off market.
There's a certain amount of luck involved there. But that's kind of, it goes along with your kind of networking circles.
Right.
But I thought about the kind of cars that are available in our neck of the woods, and whether you're using like cars.com or Auto Trader. I went on Auto Trader and kind of just did a little exercise. Yeah. I thought, well, let's kind of pick a kind of nondescript sedan. I picked a Ford Fusion. Now, the Ford Fusion is not being sold as a new car anymore, so they're all used.
Right.
And I did a search of about 100 miles from my house. The search came up with 559 results. So that's not too bad. And this also might be a good deal because the Fusion is not super popular.
Right.
So,
well, it goes to Steve's point of go outside of your exact comfort of an SUV, go to a sedan, go to a hatchback, go to something besides the popular hot car.
So the highest price for this Fusion was a 2018 S model, $33,795 with 42,000 miles. The lowest price for one that actually ran, there was one that was like $2,000, and I clicked on it, I was like, yeah, it doesn't run.
Right.
So anyway,
we can get to something like that a little later.
We'll discount that one. So the lowest price was a 2006 SE model, $4,800, about 155,000 miles. So if you keep it around $20,000, you can find something in that area. But I also thought about what Steve Elek said. You're thinking about like an SUV because that's like what everyone wants. So I did the same exercise with the 4Runner,
right? And
got 241 results. So a lot fewer than a kind of a boring sedan. But again, you need a car; it's available. The highest price, and I did the cutoff about 2020 model because the 4Runner is still a new car. So for 2020, a TRD Pro went for $59,000 with 33,000 miles. $59,000,
right?
For almost a 3-year-old 4Runner.
So it's a niche vehicle, though.
It is, yeah. It is a reliable vehicle. It's a good choice. But what I'm thinking of is once you find this car, though, how do you determine which one to buy? Because I think you really want to get a pre-purchase inspection. You want a mechanic to look at this car because you were mentioning a $2,000 Fusion. I mean, you want someone to look at the car before you buy it.
No
question. I think you really have to insist on a mechanic checking it out for you.
Well, I think Mike was talking about some of the publications that we put out, and we have on consumerreports.org, but we also have it on newsstands, our used car buying guide. And in there is a checklist, and we kind of recommend the process of what you do. And you were talking, Steve, about kind of getting it inspected, but how do you get to that stage? I mean, do you just go? Do you buy it? Do you drive it to the mechanic? What do you do when you're looking for a car? And let's just assume you're buying it from a retailer. Okay, you're not buying it from just a guy.
Or a gal. The best thing to do would be to find a third party, an unbiased, someone else, some other mechanic to look at it, and you either ask if you're buying it from a dealership, you ask them to deliver it there, or have a mechanic or a friend come with you and just take a look at it on the lot.
I would add, though, that if you can get the mechanic that has a lift, because you want a really good inspection of any used car. In other words,
you're saying before you even commit to buying it, you want to be able to look at it over.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, it should be a condition of the sale.
Yeah, because a mechanic is going to be able to look underneath the car and see if there's repaired frame damage, for example. Sure. See there's overspray from being repainted after being in an accident, because you're not always going to get the truth from a used car salesperson sometimes. Right. But I mean, it's one thing to bring somebody to a lot and like they kind of crawl over it. But I think it's really legitimate to insist on getting the undercarriage inspected. And you might have to pay the mechanic. Maybe it's $100 you give the mechanic or something like that. It's worth every penny.
Well, so I think that leads into one thing is that a lot of people ask us, look, it's great that the average used car is, I think my notes are $29,000 as of this taping, and it fluctuates, but it's going up. I mean, that used to be the price not so long ago, the average price of a new car. So it's tough. Mm-hmm. But what if I need a $5,000 car? What if I only have $10,000? And it sounds a little lectury, but it's in those situations really important to do research, to take the time for the planning, but to spend that extra money. And with inflation, I mean, an hourly rate for a mechanic, in this, outside of Hartford right now could be over $100 easy. And that's for a non-specialty car. You're not talking the Porsche guy. You're talking someone who works on Hondas.
No, I mean, a Ford Fusion.
Yeah, a Ford Fusion.
Even get that inspected. And while we talked about the 4Runner being a traditionally reliable vehicle, which it is, it's not taking into account what kind of abuse it might have had before you're even considering buying it.
But, it's one of those things where it's really key when you are desperate for your car because you have to get to work. You know, it's not a work at home. You don't have, work online at home. You can afford to be out of work, for a day without a car. I mean, and just work online. To take that day, have someone who knows how to read a contract and come with you to look over the contract to find out what the cooling off, what the return period is, and make that appointment to go to a mechanic, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And even prior to that, I mean, like I mentioned, I work on the auto data analytics, so I get all these reliability results, and you could look at that in our used car buying guide and really see which vehicles tend to be more reliable. So maybe narrow down your list to more reliable vehicles if you know that you have to choose something that'll get you to work on Monday.
Right. And in the book and online, we have the reliable used cars under 5 and under, and 5 to 10 and 10 to 15. So there are options. They're not all going to be a GT3 RS, let's say, a 911. They're not going to necessarily be sexy. That's a heck of a lot more important now than, being flashy.
So can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah, sure.
Because we're all auto enthusiasts here, but you guys have kind of like real specialty, a couple of the German brands that you're particularly fans of. Where do you?
Well, it's a love-hate, let's be honest.
Well, no, understandable. But where do you guys? Where can you guys be rational enough to like step back and say, I really love this car, but it's probably going to be a nightmare. I mean, we're talking about, desperation. What do you need? What do you do in desperate times? Can you take your real enthusiasm for particular brands and step away from it when it comes to like trying to do something practical or sensible for your family?
Absolutely. I mean, on one hand, I'm a car enthusiast, but on the other hand, I'm a
You're
data
not an
analyst.
idiot.
Well, and I'm a data analyst. The data's telling you to go for the reliable cars, then go for the reliable car. Maybe
Right.
I'll get myself a unreliable car, but I wouldn't put my wife in something unreliable because I want it to be run. So yeah, to answer your question, that's two separate ideas for what to get for a daily driver that's going to be reliable for you. Then look at the data. And I think it's okay that it's a mainstream model, especially because you have so many people telling you the reliability with that mainstream model. You have more data points telling you what's reliable and what's not. So
there's a reason
I think
you
it further supports that. Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason you see so many Toyota Highlanders. They're reliable, and we get a lot of Toyota Highlander data, and it feeds itself. It's not confirmation bias. They actually are reliable. We are getting that in.
Right.
Exactly.
We're not making this up. I mean, there's a reason why a truck like the Toyota Tacoma, which is pretty crude, and honestly, Toyota hasn't put a lot of money into it over the years.
I mean, they would probably say yes, but we know what you're saying.
It holds its value really well because of the reputation for it being this rock solid truck.
Exactly.
Now, I know I looked at it recently. It's about like average or maybe a little above average. It's not like the rock star that it used to be, but it's still, people are still going to pay more for this truck because of its past.
Well, people should definitely check out consumerreports.org because we have a lot of new data actually online now, with our new survey, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So new survey results are out, and that means the most updated results on what's reliable, what's not, for what our members told us in the last 12 months, sort of problems happened to their vehicles.
And that what I was just going to say. Why don't you tell how do we get this data? We just don't make it up, for example.
Yeah. We survey our members, and typically approximately over 300,000 members tell us what went wrong with their vehicles in the last 12 months. And we have data on vehicles from the year 2000 all the way up to now a couple 2023 models. Many members are telling us what went wrong with their vehicle. We're able to formulate that into problem rates and then eventually ratings to tell us how a car relates to other vehicles within that model year.
Yes, the average vehicle,
the average. Is it more reliable than the average vehicle? Is it less reliable than the average vehicle? And well, you go with something that's above or well above average, and
certainly
you're going to be okay.
That's probably the best used car advice right there.
Yeah.
So I think we did talk a couple bullet points, to not end up being a sucker, so to speak. Obviously do your research. So consumerreports.org, our publications. Look at a variety of sources, forums, Reddit, Facebook. Wherever you go for your information, go there. Figure out the cost of the vehicle. Cost of the vehicle is a key thing. Go in there, know what that costs. Don't tell the salesperson what you could pay per month. Like you said, don't get into the box, the four-corner box, of what you want to pay and your interest. No. the price of the car, find the price of the car, pre-approved, go get pre-approved for your loan, whether it's credit union or bank, and bring a friend. Bring a friend who's also not. Who's not like the two of us going and looking at an Audi or something might not be a great idea, or going and looking at a BMW or a sports car or something, because we just egg each other.
Be a good influence,
right? And that's the thing.
It's just like, John, you really need to buy this.
Don't bring that person who's going to tell you look good even though you don't look good. Bring a reliable friend who can act like a cooler on the deal. So
and it made me think though that like when you're talking about narrowing down which car to buy. And let's say you can't get a mechanic. You can't get it up in the lift. I think you're actually a better way. You have more skills of evaluating whether or not a car is good or not just by using like your nose, using your eyes. You can see like worn carpet. You can see the gas pedal or the brake pedal. If it's really worn and the car only has 20,000 miles on it, something might be fishy. You stick your nose into the trunk and it smells musty and dirty. It could have been underwater. You can see panel gaps that aren't even. So when people say, well, I don't know anything about cars and I can't, you're actually better at it than you think you are.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah. A little prep in advance.
Yeah.
So, let us know your experience. Let us know if you're buying a car, you're looking for a car, you just bought one. It would be great to hear from our listeners, hear from our viewers, about your experiences. So go to the show notes below, go to the comments section, and tell us what you find. You also could send it to us at talkingcars@icloud.com, which is where we ask people to send their short video clips, send their questions. But we answer in the second section of, the second segment of the video like we're going to do now. So again, send your questions, your videos, talkingcars@icloud.com, just like Jose. Because Jose asked, I was shopping for a car with my daughter, and with the crazy prices of used cars nowadays, I've noticed more cars for sale with a rebuilt title. Would you guys ever consider buying a car with a rebuilt title? Why or why not? All right, so we have a rebuilt car, but we also have ones you've heard about with salvage. And the real big issue is that with a rebuilt, you have a car that a mechanic has taken. They've rebuilt the vehicle. It has a title on it. You can get insurance. You can't necessarily get comprehensive insurance on it. So so there's that issue. You get into an accident, you're not necessarily getting money for it. You're getting insurance that if you hit someone or someone hits you and who have medical issues or any of that type of thing, that's fine. But you're not going to be able to get costs back for that vehicle because it's already been rebuilt. Salvage insurance companies don't like touching. They become much bigger issues. So Steve, assuming you're not going to just rebuild it and take it to the racetrack or something like that, would you buy a rebuilt or even a salvage, but particularly a rebuilt car?
What I would recommend is, you're a Talking Cars viewer, you're a smart shopper. You should probably stay away from a rebuilt car for the most part. They may have problems underneath. If you don't want to deal with that, if you don't want to, or if you don't know how to work on cars in depth, maybe stay away from that. As far as me personally, I might consider it because I know what I'm looking at, and it also depends. It's a case-by-case basis for a rebuilt car. I talked to our chief mechanic, John, earlier, and he said... John Ibbotson. John Ibbotson. Yep. Not
Big
the
John.
other John.
Big John, yeah.
And he said that there could be different cases why something had to be rebuilt. For example, he knows someone who buys cars that have suffered hail damage, and they say that's okay. The car operates fine. They don't care that it has a couple dings in it. Sure. That might be okay, but maybe stay away from a theft car or a salvage car. So it's, again, a case-by-case basis for rebuilt cars. But in general, if you don't want to get into it, I would stay away from rebuilt cars altogether.
I think one of the key things that he's talking about for his daughter, and in this case, and look, sometimes it's can you tell us more information about it? Is she driving 4 miles to high school? Is she driving 50 miles each way commuting to work? And I would say, in general, for your kid, it's probably better not to buy the rebuilt.
Right.
I mean, maybe take the rebuilt yourself and let her have the regular car if you're really going that way for money. What's your take on it?
But it's very murky. I mean, if we talked about whether it's a salvage title, a flood, branded, all these obscure, letters or number codes that some states use to decide what the title actually says. And in the case of hail damage, that's mostly just cosmetic.
Yep.
But I mean, the car, it was in a hailstorm. It wasn't 6 feet underwater.
Sure.
So
exactly.
there's a big difference there. If the car suffered a pretty hard hit in an accident, then you don't know if the structural integrity of the car is going to be compromised. Mm-hmm. So from that perspective, I'd say, I don't think I want anyone driving this car. I don't even know if I want to drive this car if that kind of damage, was occurred to the vehicle. But if it's just, it doesn't look so nice. I mean, yeah, your teenage daughter or son will be angry at you, but at least they have some wheels.
Well, one of the things we've talked about is that with a lot of new cars, sensors. Mm-hmm. There's complicated sensors for all the safety systems. Headlights are extremely expensive and very complicated. You can get a hit where it's not a frame damage. It's not even engine doesn't move, none of that. But the vehicle of the certain age and the rebuilt price for the for repair would end up totaling the car. So depending, like you said, on the accident, on the type of incident, it may make sense for some people. I wouldn't, and I don't think the crew here would actually do it for someone's daughter or recommend that.
And keep in mind that if you're not going to keep this car for a while and you want to sell it in a few years, selling a car with any of these title issues
that would not be easy.
Is going to be tough. You have to just find the right buyer. But when we talk about whether or not a car is structurally sound to be driven, it still comes back to the advice of get a trusted mechanic to put it up and look underneath, because they'll probably be able to tell whether or not this thing's going to hold together or not.
So, Jose, let us know what happened. I think I say this with every episode, but it really would be nice to know from, what happens if our advice helped or, what your decision was. So that's it for this episode. We want to thank Steve for making appearance number 2. One of the 10 dozen mics that we have here working at Consumer Reports, his 100th episode or something, hooray. Thanks for watching. As always, send your questions, talkingcars@icloud.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.